The low, resonant hum of Station 7 was the constant, unchanging heartbeat of Elias Vance's universe. It vibrated through the deck plates beneath his worn boots, seeped into the recycled air he breathed, a monotonous lullaby for a life lived in the quiet isolation of deep space. He moved through the familiar motions of sterilizing his veterinary clinic, the sharp, clean scent of antiseptic momentarily cutting through the usual station smells of ozone, stale nutrient paste, and something vaguely metallic. Outside the thick viewport, the void pressed in, an overwhelming blackness punctuated by the indifferent diamond dust of distant stars and the occasional silent passage of a lumbering ore freighter, its running lights blinking slowly like tired eyes. Station 7 was a place of transience, an orbital eddy on the fringes of the Orion Spur where prospectors, smugglers, itinerant researchers, and weary spacers paused to refuel, repair, trade gossip, and disappear back into the vast emptiness. Few put down roots. Elias, however, had remained for 5 standard years, anchored by a grief he rarely acknowledged, and a routine that kept the sharp edges of memory blurred. He was the station's sole veterinarian, a role that saw him mending the limbs of 6-legged pack animals from Cygnus X1, diagnosing respiratory ailments in silicon-based life forms from the Kepler belt, and occasionally treating the exotic pets of eccentric traders. He was skilled, his hands steady even when faced with anatomies that seemed conjured from nightmares, his quiet demeanor often soothing agitated creatures and their equally agitated owners. Yet, the work, once a shield against introspection, had grown thin. Each procedure felt like a faint echo of the last, the days marked only by the shifting hues of the station's artificial daylight cycle, a relentless, sterile march towards nothing in particular, one designated night cycle. When the main corridors dimmed and activity slowed to a crawl, a series of urgent, irregular chimes broke the monotony, echoing from his comm panel. Proximity alert, outer docking rings, emergency frequency, highly unusual. Traffic near Station 7 was sparse and tightly scheduled. He turned to the external monitors, his brow furrowed. A small vessel, unlike any freighter or patrol craft common to the sector, was limping towards emergency docking bay 4. Its hull was a seamless expanse of polished obsidian, reflecting the station lights in distorted, flowing patterns. It was sleek, predatory, and clearly damaged, venting intermittent bursts of blue-white plasma from a ruptured engine cowling. No standard registry codes, no familiar configuration. It screamed off grid. Trouble. The ship bypassed standard docking protocols, its inertial dampeners struggling, settling onto the bay's magnetic clamps with a heavy thud. Its energy signature flickered erratically, then died. Elias watched, a knot of unease tightening in his stomach. Station 7's security contingent was minimal, more adept at collecting docking fees and breaking up drunken brawls than handling genuinely sophisticated threats. He sighed, turning back to his instruments. Not his problem. He had learned early on that survival on the fringe often meant minding one's own business. But then, a fractured, desperate voice crackled over the station-wide emergency channel. The transmission was heavily distorted, laced with static and panic, requesting immediate medical assistance at Bay 4. The garbled words hinted not at a humanoid casualty, but something other, something vital, curiosity, that dangerous, long-dormant impulse, stirred within him. Coupled perhaps with the ingrained instinct of a healer, he secured his clinic, the lock hissing shut, grabbed his comprehensive medkit, its weight familiar on his shoulder, and headed towards the docking bay, his footsteps echoing slightly in the quieter corridor. Docking Bay 4 was a pocket of contained chaos. A small crowd of off-duty technicians, wary cargo handlers, and a couple of bored-looking security guards had gathered near the obsidian ship's ramp, which hung partially open, revealing a darkened interior. Murmurs rippled through the onlookers, speculation mixing with apprehension. The security guards, armed with standard-issue stun batons and looking distinctly out of their depth, were making a half-hearted attempt to keep people back. Elias navigated the small throng, his medical insignia granting him passage. And then he saw it. Sprawled on the cold, grimy permacrete, just beyond the ship's threshold, lay the source of the frantic call. It was a creature of breathtaking, lethal elegance, unlike anything cataloged in the standard xenobiological databases. Roughly the size of a Terran snow leopard, but built with a leaner, more powerful grace. Its body was covered in dense, short fur, the color of a moonless night. Embedded within the fur were streaks or patches that seemed to actively absorb light, creating shifting, optical illusion shadows that writhed and flowed even in the steady illumination of the docking bay. 4 powerful limbs ended in wickedly sharp, retractable claws, currently extended, scoring shallow grooves in the floor plating as the creature fought for consciousness or perhaps grounded itself against the agony radiating from its flank. A deep, vicious wound marred its left side, sluggishly oozing a thick, iridescent fluid, its blood, perhaps, that steamed faintly where it met the cooler station air. The wound edges were ragged, scorched, telling of energy weapon fire. The creature's breathing was a series of shallow, whistling gasps, its slightly parted jaws revealing rows of formidable, needle-sharp teeth. But it was the eyes that stopped Elias cold, large, almond-shaped, and the color of molten gold. They were shockingly intelligent. They weren't the eyes of a mere animal, driven by instinct and pain. They were aware, ancient, filled with a profound weariness and a flicker of defiance as they tracked his cautious approach. "Whoa there, Doc," one of the guards stammered, nervously shifting his grip on his baton. "That thing looks like it could tear you apart. Maybe we should just contain it." Elias ignored the ill-advised suggestion, his focus entirely on the wounded creature. He knelt slowly, deliberately keeping his movements non-threatening, his hands open and visible. "Easy," he murmured, his voice pitched low and calm. The universal frequency of reassurance. "It's all right. I'm just here to help you." He extended a hand cautiously, palm up, letting the creature catch his scent. The golden eyes blinked, slowly, deliberately. A low, resonant growl rumbled deep within its chest, a warning vibration rather than overt aggression. It didn't lash out. Elias could see the fine tremors running through its powerful muscles, the immense effort it cost the creature simply to remain aware. The wound was critical. He could see damaged tissue, signs of significant internal trauma. Without immediate, expert intervention, it would die here on the cold floor of Bay 4. "I need to get it to my clinic," he said, his voice firm, cutting through the nervous chatter of the onlookers. "Right now, it needs surgery." Transporting the creature proved challenging. It reacted with a sharp hiss and a threatening flex of its claws when the technicians brought an anti-gravity stretcher near, clearly distrusting the unfamiliar humming technology. Elias, sensing its fear and intelligence, changed tactics. He continued speaking to it in that low, soothing tone, explaining his intentions, promising relief from the pain. He carefully, gently probed the edges of the wound, waiting for a subtle, almost imperceptible lowering of the creature's head, a sign of assent, before proceeding. It seemed to understand his intent, if not his words. Eventually, using a heavy-duty decontamination tarp folded into a makeshift sling. Elias and two of the less terrified technicians managed to lift the creature. It was surprisingly dense, solid muscle beneath the light-absorbing fur, far heavier than its size suggested. They moved slowly, carefully, through the station corridors, attracting curious and fearful glances. Back within the sterile sanctuary of his clinic, the door hissing shut behind them, Elias felt a measure of relief. The creature, which he found himself mentally dubbing NYX after the primordial goddess of night evoked by its coat, allowed him to guide it onto the large, metallic examining table, its golden eyes never leaving his face, watchful, assessing. He administered a mild sedative, carefully calculated for its estimated mass and alien physiology, enough to dull the searing pain and allow him to work, but not so much as to dangerously depress its vital signs. The internal workings were unlike anything he'd encountered. The iridescent blood clotted with agonizing slowness, even with coagulants applied. Working under the bright surgical lamps, he meticulously cleaned the wound. He found several small, wickedly sharp metallic fragments embedded deep within the muscle tissue, remnants of the projectile or energy blast that had caused the injury. Extracting them required patience and precision, minimizing further damage. Beneath the torn muscle, he discovered hairline fractures on two ribs and significant bruising around a large internal organ that pulsed with a faint internal bioluminescence. The complexity was staggering, a testament to evolutionary paths wildly divergent from Earth's. He spent hours delicately repairing torn tissues with microsutures, reinforcing the fractured ribs with a fast-setting biofoam compound, and applying advanced cellular regeneration promoters designed for broad-spectrum use. Throughout the entire arduous procedure, NYX remained remarkably still, its breathing shallow but steady, occasionally letting out a low, breathy moan when a particular manipulation caused a spike of pain. Its unwavering, intelligent gaze followed his every move. Elias felt an unusual connection solidifying, a strange sense of responsibility that transcended his usual professional detachment. This was no ordinary animal. The depth of awareness in those golden eyes spoke of sentience, perhaps even wisdom. When he finally finished, securing the bandages over the now clean and stabilized wound, a profound exhaustion washed over him. He dimmed the clinic lights, sank onto a nearby stool, and simply watched NYX breathe. The creature's respiration was deeper now, more regular. The steady rise and fall of its shadowed flank, a small victory against the encroaching void. The quiet rhythm was a strange comfort in the sterile silence. The following station cycles settled into a new routine. Nix's recovery occupied the center of Elias's world. He meticulously monitored vital signs displayed on scanners adapted for the creature's unique biosignature, adjusted intravenous nutrient drips formulated through educated guesswork and careful observation, and changed the wound dressings daily, noting the slow but steady progress of the cellular regenerators. He found himself talking to NYX constantly, filling the quiet clinic with the sound of his voice. He described the mundane workings of Station 7, recounted tales from his xenoveterinary training. He even shared fragmented memories of Earth, rainy Seattle streets, the scent of pine forests, the warmth of a family he rarely allowed himself to remember. He spoke not expecting a reply, but because the silence felt heavier now, and NYX seemed to listen, its ears subtly angling towards him, its golden eyes tracking his movements with unnerving focus. Nix, done in return, developed its own subtle language. A particular flick of its tufted ear indicated irritation. A soft, breathy chuff seemed to denote contentment or acknowledgement. It would gently nudge Elias's hand with its broad head when its water dispenser needed refilling, or emit a low, specific growl if a particular diagnostic scan caused discomfort. Occasionally, Elias experienced fleeting moments of something else, a faint pressure at the edge of his consciousness, a flash of an image, warm sunlight on dark fur, the acrid smell of burnt circuitry, or a wave of emotion that wasn't his own, gratitude, caution, a deep, aching sorrow. He tried to dismiss these sensations as stress, fatigue, or simple projection, but they felt too distinct, too specific. NYX was undeniably intelligent, learning the clinic's rhythms with astonishing speed. A bond formed between them, unspoken yet deeply felt, woven from shared vulnerability, mutual respect, and the quiet intimacy of the recovery room. Elias found himself anticipating their silent companionship, a flicker of warmth in the cold expanse of his solitary life. The fragile peace shattered with the arrival of two individuals. They didn't come through the main docking procedures. They simply appeared, disembarking from a nondescript bulk freighter that had docked briefly for minor repairs. They moved through the station's corridors with a quiet, purposeful efficiency that screamed professional. Both were clad in identical dark gray, form-fitting environmental suits that obscured their species and features. Their helmets polarized to black mirrors. Their movements were economical, precise, almost synchronized, like predators coordinating a hunt. They started asking questions, subtle inquiries at first, directed towards station administrators preoccupied with tariffs, security personnel more interested in their next shift change, and dock workers whose loyalties were usually tied to the highest bidder. The questions were always the same. Had anyone seen the damaged obsidian ship that arrived cycles ago? Was anything unusual recovered from it? Word spread, as it always did in the closed environment of a space station, relayed through whispers in crowded mess halls and coded messages exchanged in dimly lit bars. Elias heard about them from a nervous Rhodian merchant whose prized Gamorrean guard beast Elias had treated for digestive trouble, asking about strange cargo. "Doc," the Rhodian had whispered, his large eyes darting nervously. "Specifically valuable. LIV SIL cargo from that ghost ship in Bay 4, offering serious credits, no questions asked." A shard of ice seemed to lodge itself in Elias's heart. He looked across the clinic to where NYX rested on a low thermal pad, its healing flank still heavily bandaged, those intelligent golden eyes watching him. He knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the bone, that these silent, efficient strangers were hunting NYX. A fierce, unexpected wave of protectiveness washed over him. NYX wasn't just a patient anymore, it was his responsibility, his secret. Leaving the creature in the clinic, a known location tied to the Bay 4 incident, was unthinkable. He had to move it, hide it somewhere safe. That night, when the station hummed at its lowest ebb, he carefully, silently disconnected Nix's monitoring leads. "Time to go, my friend," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "We aren't safe here anymore." NYX regarded him steadily for a long moment, then gave a soft, low rumble, a sound not of fear, but of understanding. It rose stiffly, favoring its injured side, but moved without hesitation. Elias led the way, opening the clinic's rarely used rear service hatch. It opened onto the station's labyrinthine network of maintenance tunnels, dark, dusty, echoing corridors filled with humming power conduits, dripping coolant pipes, and the scuttling sounds of station vermin. It was a maze known primarily to overworked technicians and, fortunately, to Elias, who had explored sections of it during his long years on the station. Seeking solitude or simple shortcuts, he guided NYX through the dimly lit passages, deeper into the station's metallic guts, until he found what he was looking for: a small, forgotten supply locker tucked away behind a massive, sparking power junction box. Thick with dust but surprisingly dry and secure, he quickly made NYX as comfortable as possible with clean thermal blankets he'd brought, a container of fresh water, and a supply of concentrated nutrient paste. "Stay here. Be absolutely quiet," Elias instructed, crouching down to look into those golden eyes. "I'll be back as soon as I can. I promise." NYX pressed its broad head firmly against his hand for a brief moment, a gesture of profound trust that tightened the knot of anxiety in Elias's chest, almost unbearably. He returned to his clinic, meticulously cleaning away any stray dark hairs, any trace of Nyx's presence, forcing himself to resume his normal routine. But every flicker of movement in the corridor outside, every unfamiliar chime from the station comms, sent his heart rate spiking. The two strangers visited his clinic the very next cycle. They entered silently, their mirrored helmets reflecting the sterile lights, their presence sucking the air out of the small room. "Veterinarian Vance," the slightly taller one stated, his voice filtered through a modulator, flat and metallic. His unseen gaze swept the clinic, lingering for a calculated moment on the empty space where Nyx's thermal pad had been. "Information suggests you provided medical services following the docking incident in Bay 4. I treat numerous off-world species," Elias replied, forcing himself to meet the blank helmet, focusing on wiping down an already immaculate countertop. His hands felt slick with sweat. "Station regulations require detailed logs for critical care cases involving non-standard life forms. We are not concerned with station regulations," the second figure said, its head tilting almost bird-like. The modulated voice was equally devoid of inflection. "We are concerned with the asset, the creature retrieved from the damaged vessel." "Asset." Elias feigned mild confusion, busying himself arranging sterile surgical packs on a shelf. It was a fascinating biological specimen. Extremely complex physiology. Severe energy weapon trauma to the torso. He kept his explanation clinical, detached. Required extensive surgical intervention. Its current disposition. The first one pressed, taking a subtle step closer. The implied threat was palpable, a cold pressure in the air. Elias took a slow breath, meeting the mirrored visor again. This was the critical moment. The creature's injuries. They were ultimately too severe. He lied, the words feeling like ashes in his mouth. He hated the deception, hated the fear coiling in his gut. But Nyx's life depended on it. Despite my best efforts, massive internal hemorrhaging persisted. It expired approximately 18 hours post-surgery. He paused, adding a touch of professional regret. As per protocol for potentially hazardous unknown biologicals, the remains were incinerated, silence stretched, thick and heavy. The two figures stood perfectly still, observing him. Elias could feel their unseen eyes boring into him, searching for any sign of deception. He forced himself to remain calm, to keep his breathing even, his expression neutral. He braced for an accusation, for sudden violence. Then, unexpectedly, the taller figure gave a curt, almost imperceptible nod. "Regrettable," the metallic voice stated. "Our employers offered a significant bonus for live recovery, a lesser, but still substantial sum for the remains." They turned in unison, their movements fluid and silent, and exited the clinic, disappearing back into the station's anonymous flow. Elias leaned heavily against the counter, his legs threatening to buckle. Relief washed over him, cold and sharp, quickly followed by renewed fear. They had believed him, for now. But the mention of employers and bonuses confirmed NYX wasn't merely lost cargo, it was targeted, and its hunters were professionals. He became a creature of shadows himself, increasing his caution tenfold. He varied his routes through the station, checked constantly for surveillance, and visited NYX in the hidden locker only during the deepest night cycles, ensuring he wasn't followed. He brought fresh supplies, tended to the slowly healing wound, and spoke in low whispers, updating NYX on the situation. The creature seemed to understand the gravity, remaining utterly still and silent whenever Elias was present, its golden eyes gleaming with watchful intelligence in the dim glow of his hand lamp. During one such clandestine visit, while Elias was changing the dressing, NYX suddenly went rigid, muscles bunching, a low, guttural growl vibrating in its chest. Its head snapped up, ears flattened, golden eyes fixed intently on the corridor beyond the locker's partially open door. Elias froze, every nerve ending alight. He strained his ears, filtering out the station's background hum. Then he heard it, soft, rhythmic sounds. Footsteps. Not the heavy clang of a maintenance worker's boots, but the stealthy, near-silent tread of trained operatives deliberately masking their movement. He instantly doused his lamp, plunging the locker into near-total darkness, pressing himself and NYX back against the cold metal wall, holding his breath. Two dark shapes, silhouetted against the faint emergency lighting strip further down the tunnel, moved slowly past the locker entrance. Elias recognized their characteristic gait, the shape of their environmental suits. The assassins. They hadn't given up. They were systematically searching the station's neglected underbelly. He waited, heart pounding against his ribs, until the faint sounds faded completely into the distance. Only then did he allow himself a shaky exhale. NYX nudged his hand gently, a soft, rumbling purr vibrating through its chest, a sound of reassurance that felt strangely mutual, a brief moment of shared understanding in the oppressive darkness. The situation was rapidly becoming untenable. He couldn't keep NYX confined to this dusty locker indefinitely. The assassins were methodical, relentless. Sooner or later they would find them. He needed help, a way out, but the station offered no allies. Station security was a poorly equipped joke. The administration cared only for profit margins, and the transient population was motivated by self-interest. He felt crushingly alone, burdened with the secret of this extraordinary creature and hunted by invisible, lethal enemies. His quiet, predictable life had irrevocably shattered, replaced by constant fear and a desperate need for a solution that seemed impossible to find. Several cycles later, hope arrived in an unexpected, regal form. A new ship requested docking clearance, its arrival announced with unusual fanfare by the station master. It wasn't a freighter or a patrol ship, it was a sleek, silver diplomatic courier, swift and elegant, bearing the prominent crest of a stylized, roaring feline head rendered in gold and black, the unmistakable sigil of the Valerius dynasty from the Kithar Dominion, a powerful, ancient civilization known for its proud warrior culture and strict societal hierarchies. Such high-ranking vessels rarely, if ever, visited fringe outposts like Station 7. Elias, monitoring station traffic from his clinic's console, watched its arrival with detached curiosity, a brief distraction from his pervasive anxiety. The ship docked smoothly in a priority berth, usually reserved for governors or corporate executives. Its main ramp lowered with a near-silent hiss, and she emerged into the harsh lighting of the main concourse. She commanded attention instantly, effortlessly, tall and poised. Her form was distinctly humanoid, but possessed elegant feline characteristics that spoke of her Cathar heritage. Her ears, tapered and tufted with fine dark fur, rose slightly above the cascade of sleek, jet-black hair that fell down her back like polished silk. Her eyes, large and striking, were the color of the deepest emeralds. Her pupils vertical slits that scanned the surroundings with assessing intelligence. Her movements were fluid, imbued with a natural predatory grace, even constrained within the formal. Dark tunic and trousers accented with intricate silver embroidery that denoted high rank. She was flanked by two imposing guards clad in gleaming, ornate carapace armor, their faces grim and watchful, their hands resting near sophisticated sidearms. Her expression was a carefully controlled mask of regal authority. Yet, Elias, watching the magnified image on his screen, thought he detected fine lines of strain around her eyes, a deep, underlying worry beneath the impeccable composure. Her gaze swept the assembled station personnel, administrators bowing awkwardly, security guards standing straighter than usual, pausing for a fraction of a second, inexplicably, on the monitor feed showing the corridor outside Elias's clinic, before moving on. He felt a strange jolt, a flicker of something akin to recognition, though he was certain he had never laid eyes on this striking alien woman before. The station master, flustered and obsequious, announced her identity with a tremor in his voice. Baroness Selira Valerius of the Cathar Dominion. She was seeking information, he stammered, offering a substantial reward, enough to buy a small moon freighter, for any verifiable knowledge concerning a unique creature, lost during a violent attack on her personal transport vessel near this sector several cycles ago. The creature, the station master relayed, reading from a datapad provided by one of the Baroness's guards, was described as a Xylosian shadowcat, critically important, irreplaceable. Then followed a detailed description, quadrupedal, feline grace, fur like midnight, capable of absorbing light, golden eyes, exceptional intelligence. A perfect match for NYX. Elias felt the blood roar in his ears, a wave of dizziness washing over him. NYX wasn't just valuable cargo or a targeted asset. It was royal property, a creature of immense significance, perhaps even sacred, to one of the Dominion's ruling dynasties. And its owner, the powerful, regal Baroness, was here, searching, undoubtedly aware of the same assassins who hunted her companion. He knew immediately what he had to do. Approaching the Baroness was Nyx's only realistic chance of survival, their only chance of escaping the station. But the risks were enormous. How could he explain hiding the Shadowcat without appearing suspicious, or worse, complicit in its initial disappearance? He waited, heart pounding, watching the monitors as the Baroness and her entourage were escorted towards the station's administrative offices. He needed to get NYX bring the creature to her. But it had to be done carefully, away from prying eyes and the ever-present threat of the assassins. He slipped out of his clinic, heading once more towards the service tunnels, his medkit now augmented with the small tranquilizer pistol he'd acquired for emergencies. As he navigated the familiar twists and turns, nearing the hidden supply locker, a prickle of wrongness crawled up his spine. The air felt static, charged with tension. He slowed his pace, listening intently. Faint sounds drifted from ahead, a low, strangled snarl, the scrape of claws on metal, a muffled grunt of effort. NYX. He broke into a run, drawing the tranquilizer pistol, fear coiling tightly in his gut. He threw open the locker door. One of the dark-suited assassins was inside, struggling desperately with NYX. A crackling stun net lay discarded on the floor. The creature, despite its still healing wound, fought with astonishing ferocity. A whirlwind of black fur, flashing claws and snapping teeth, its low snarls echoing in the confined space. The assassin grunted curses, trying to pin NYX down, clearly unprepared for the creature's strength and agility. The second assassin stood just outside the locker, turning, raising a compact energy pistol as Elias burst in. Instinct took over. Elias fired the tranquilizer pistol without conscious thought. The dart hit the second assassin squarely in the neck. The figure gasped, firing his weapon reflexively. The energy bolt shrieked past Elias's head, scoring a molten scar on the tunnel wall, before the assassin crumpled, limbs twitching. Succumbing to the fast-acting neurosedative, the commotion momentarily distracted the assassin grappling with NYX. He glanced towards the doorway, his grip loosening fractionally. It was all the opening NYX needed. The creature twisted, sinking its fangs deep into the assassin's exposed forearm through a tear in the suit. The man roared in pain and surprise, trying violently to shake NYX off. Elias surged forward, tackling the assassin low, driving him back against the metal shelving lining the locker. The impact sent tools scattering. The fight was brief, brutal, fueled by adrenaline and Elias's desperate need to protect NYX. He was no soldier, but desperation lent him strength. He managed to wrench the assassin's stun baton away, smashing the heavy end against the man's helmet. The assassin slumped, groaning, momentarily stunned. NYX released its grip, panting heavily, iridescent blood welling afresh from where the struggle had partially reopened its wound. Suddenly, the entrance to the locker and the surrounding corridor were flooded with bright light. Baroness Selira stood there, flanked by her two armored guards, their heavy energy rifles aimed steadily into the locker. Her emerald eyes widened, instantly taking in the chaotic scene. Elias, breathing hard, standing over one groaning assassin, another unconscious figure nearby, and NYX bleeding but alive, pressing close against Elias's leg, emitting a low, protective growl towards the newcomers. "Hold your fire," Selira commanded, her voice sharp, cutting through the tension. Her guards remained alert but lowered their rifles slightly at her signal. Elias slowly raised his hands, the tranquilizer pistol suddenly feeling heavy and incriminating. "Baroness," he said, his voice strained but clear. "Please, I mean no harm. I found him. NYX, after the attack near this sector. He was badly wounded. I've been trying to keep him safe." Selira's intense gaze flickered from Elias to the creature pressing against him. Her expression softened instantly, concern overriding suspicion. "NYX," she breathed, the name a mixture of relief and disbelief. She moved forward, ignoring the cautious gestures of her guards, kneeling beside the shadow cat. She extended a gloved hand slowly. NYX hesitated for only a second before hobbling forward, emitting a series of soft, clicking purrs, rubbing its broad head against her arm in an unmistakable gesture of affection and recognition. The relief that washed over the Baroness's face was palpable, momentarily cracking her regal facade. She gently, expertly examined Nyx's reopened wound, her touch revealing a familiarity born of long association. Then, she looked up at Elias, her emerald eyes sharp once more, analytical, assessing. "You are Elias Vance," she stated, not a question. The station's veterinarian. Her intelligence network was clearly efficient. These assassins. They were hunting NYX. "Yes, Baroness," Elias confirmed, lowering his hands slowly. "They visited my clinic cycles ago, asking about him. I told them he died. I hid him here. But they must have kept searching. Selira's expression hardened as her gaze fell on the two subdued assassins. Kalen's dogs, she spat. The name laced with cold fury. My cousin, Duke Kalen Valerius, consumed by ambition, poisoned by treachery. She rose gracefully, her composure restored, but her eyes glinted with steel. He orchestrated the attack on my ship. He wants the throne. He believes killing me and eliminating NYX is the key, she explained briefly, concisely. The Shadow Cat is intrinsically bonded to the matriarch of the Valerius line, Baroness, a living symbol of our legitimacy, deeply connected to the heart of our dominion. Kalen fears that bond, that power. He needs NYX dead or controlled to solidify his usurpation. She looked directly at Elias then, her gaze piercing. You saved him. Veterinarian. Not once, but twice now. You sheltered him, healed him, defended him against those who would destroy him and see my lineage extinguished. You acted with exceptional courage and compassion. One of her guards quickly checked the assassins, securing their limbs with binders, both alive. Baroness, one sedated, the other stunned but conscious. Secure them aboard the Talon. Selira ordered curtly, standard interrogation protocols. We leave Station 7 immediately. Kalen will have other agents in this sector. He may already know his first team failed. This station is compromised. She turned back to Elias, her expression serious. You understand, veterinarian, that you are now inextricably linked to this conflict. Kalen knows someone on this station defied him, aided NYX. He will consider you an enemy. Remaining here would be unwise. Her eyes held his, a silent acknowledgement of the danger he had placed himself in. You have demonstrated remarkable resourcefulness, Dr. Vance, and you possess an understanding of Nyx's current medical needs that my own physicians lack. More than that, she paused, a flicker of something unreadable in her eyes. You have earned my gratitude and Nyx's trust, a rare commodity. I offer you safe passage. Elias Vance, come with us. Help us ensure NYX makes a full recovery. Help us fight for the future of the Dominion. Elias looked down at NYX, who gazed back at him with those unnervingly intelligent golden eyes, a silent weight of expectation in their depths. He looked at the Baroness, a figure of captivating authority and unexpected vulnerability, offering him a path away from the crushing emptiness of his life, a path leading directly into the heart of a dangerous interstellar conflict. His quiet, predictable existence was already gone, shattered the moment he decided to help the creature bleeding on the floor of Bay 4. Staying meant waiting for Kalen's next move, a sitting target. Going meant embracing the unknown, leaping into a cause not his own, alongside aliens he barely understood. Yet, as he looked at Selira's determined face, at the unwavering loyalty in Nyx's eyes, the choice felt surprisingly clear. He thought of the endless gray cycles stretching behind him, and the terrifying, vibrant, uncertain future suddenly opening before him. Okay, Elias said, the words solidifying the decision, a strange sense of purpose settling over him. I'll come. Lead the way. Baroness. Their departure from Station 7 was executed with astonishing speed and efficiency. Selira's guards moved like extensions of her will, swiftly transferring the captured assassins to secure holding cells aboard her ship, the Star Talon, while the Baroness herself coordinated with her pilot, overriding station protocols for an emergency launch. Elias quickly gathered the specialized medical supplies he'd assembled for NYX, along with a small bag containing his few essential personal belongings, his mind racing to keep up with the sudden shift in his reality. As the Star Talon's ramp sealed behind him with a heavy pneumatic hiss, he caught a final glimpse of his small clinic, the familiar, sterile environment already feeling like part of a previous life. The ship detached from the station's docking clamps with barely a tremor, its powerful engines spooling up, pressing him gently back into his seat. Station 7 dwindled rapidly in the main view screen, shrinking from a sprawling metal construct to a glittering outpost. Then just another spark swallowed by the infinite black tapestry of space. The journey aboard the Star Talon was a masterclass in calculated evasion. The ship, while elegantly appointed and equipped with advanced diplomatic shielding, wasn't a dedicated warship. Its primary defense was speed and stealth. Selira's pilot, a grim-faced Cathar veteran with cybernetically enhanced eyes, pushed the hyperdrive to its absolute limits, plotting complex, unpredictable courses through lesser-known hyperspace routes, navigating treacherous gravimetric currents and dense nebula clouds that would deter casual pursuit. Sensors swept constantly, searching for any sign of Kylan's ships. Selira explained the political landscape. Kylan controlled the core worlds and the main fleets, but loyalty in the outer territories and among some older noble houses remained with her. Their destination was a secret loyalist bastion, hidden within a notoriously hazardous asteroid cluster known as the Serpent's Coil, a place where Selira hoped to rally support and plan her countermove. During the tense transit, Elias dedicated himself to Nyx's continued recovery. The Star Talon possessed a compact but sophisticated medical bay, far better equipped than his station clinic. He worked closely with the ship's medical droid, adapting treatments, monitoring the slow knitting of bone and tissue. NYX, clearly comforted by Selira's constant presence nearby, seemed to relax, its healing accelerating. Yet, the bond with Elias remained strong. The Shadowcat would often seek him out when Selira was occupied with command duties, resting its heavy head on his knee as he reviewed medical scans, its deep purr a soothing vibration in the quiet medbay. Selira herself frequently visited, observing Elias's meticulous work with quiet approval. She asked insightful questions about Nyx's progress, her knowledge of Shadowcat physiology clearly extensive. Yet she deferred to Elias's recent experience with this specific trauma. In the forced proximity and shared danger of the journey, the barriers between the human veterinarian and the alien Baroness began to erode. Away from the immediate pressures of command or medical duties, they found themselves talking. Elias learned more about the intricate Cathar society, its emphasis on honor, lineage, and martial prowess. Its complex political system woven from alliances and ancient rivalries. He learned more about the Xylosian Shadowcats, not mere companions, but symbiotic partners to the Valerius rulers. Their empathic abilities subtly influencing court dynamics, their presence considered essential for certain ancient rights of sovereignty, their well-being mystically tied to the health of the Dominion itself. Selira, in turn, displayed a keen curiosity about Elias's background. She asked about Terra, about human culture, about his life before the isolation of Station 7, hesitantly at first, then with growing ease. Elias found himself sharing things he hadn't spoken of in years, the vibrant chaos of Earth's cities, the quiet majesty of its wildernesses, and finally, the shuttle accident that had claimed his parents, the event that had driven him to the furthest reaches of space, seeking oblivion in anonymity. Selira listened without judgment, her emerald eyes holding a profound empathy that transcended their different origins. He saw glimpses behind her regal mask, the immense weight of responsibility she carried, the raw pain of her cousin's betrayal, the fierce, protective love she held for NYX, and a core of loneliness that resonated deeply with his own. A connection, tentative yet potent, began to weave itself between them, fostered by shared moments of quiet conversation under the faint glow of nebula clouds visible through the medbay viewport. NYX often served as a silent catalyst, resting between them, occasionally nudging Selira's hand or pressing its head against Elias's side, a quiet endorsement of their growing rapport. After several tense cycles navigating hyperspace anomalies and executing sudden course changes to avoid unidentified sensor contacts, the Star Talon finally arrived at the Serpent's Coil. The asteroid cluster lived up to its name, a chaotic jumble of spinning, tumbling rocks veiled in dense fields of dust and micrometeorites. The Loyalist base was invisible from the outside, concealed within the largest asteroid, its entrances masked by holographic projectors and stealth fields. Inside, a network of tunnels and vast caverns had been carved out, housing docking bays, barracks, command centers, and hydroponic farms, all powered by geothermal taps reaching deep into the asteroid's core. The air hummed with barely contained energy and grim determination. They were greeted not by a large army, but by a small, fiercely dedicated contingent of soldiers, engineers, pilots, and political advisors who had risked everything to remain loyal to their Baroness. Relief and renewed hope were palpable as Selira emerged from the Star Talon, NYX walking proudly, if still slightly stiffly, at her side. The sight of the Shadow Cat, alive and clearly bonded to Selira, was a powerful symbol, instantly quelling doubts and galvanizing the Loyalists. Strategic planning for a counteroffensive began almost immediately. Selira's forces were significantly outnumbered and outgunned compared to Kalen's established military might. But they possessed crucial advantages: the element of surprise, the unwavering loyalty of her core supporters, the legitimacy of her claim bolstered by Nyx's presence, and Selira's own keen tactical mind. Elias initially felt like an outsider, amidst the war councils filled with uniformed Cathar officers discussing fleet deployments and planetary assault vectors. He knew nothing of military strategy, yet he found his niche. His medical expertise was invaluable, not only for Nyx's final stages of recovery, but also for treating Loyalist soldiers injured in ongoing skirmishes on contested border worlds. More unexpectedly, his perspective as an outsider, unburdened by Cathar military doctrine or political assumptions, proved surprisingly useful. During one planning session, discussing how to disable security grids around the Citadel on Cathara Prime, Elias, drawing on his experiences navigating the often unreliable systems of Station 7, suggested exploiting maintenance backdoors and outdated civilian network protocols that Kalen's security forces, focused on military-grade defenses, might have overlooked. His calm, logical approach to problem-solving, focused on practicalities rather than political maneuvering, earned him the quiet respect of Selira's advisors and deepened the Baroness's reliance on his counsel. Their relationship evolved further, moving beyond healer and patient, ruler and grateful subject, into a partnership built on mutual trust and burgeoning affection. Though the immense weight of their mission cast a long shadow over any personal feelings, the plan they formulated was daring, almost reckless, a lightning-fast surgical strike directly into the heart of Kalen's power. The capital city on Cathara Prime. The goal wasn't a protracted battle, but a swift decapitation strike. Infiltrate the royal citadel, capture or neutralize Kalen, disable his central command structure, and broadcast undeniable proof of his treason and Selira's rightful claim across the Dominion network, hoping to sway undecided factions and trigger a widespread shift in allegiance. It was incredibly high risk. When Selira announced she would lead the infiltration team personally, Elias didn't hesitate. "I'm going with you," he stated firmly. Selira looked at him, concern warring with something else in her eyes. "Elias, this will be extremely dangerous. You are not a soldier. NYX will be with you," Elias countered, meeting her gaze steadily. His recovery is almost complete, but stressful situations could cause setbacks. He might need immediate medical attention, and, he admitted, his voice softening slightly, "I need to be there, to watch your back, both of yours." Selira studied his face for a long moment. Then a small, almost imperceptible smile touched her lips. "Your courage is unconventional, Elias Vance. But welcome." She nodded. "Prepare yourself. We leave within the hour." The infiltration of Cathara Prime's capital city was a masterpiece of stealth and coordinated timing. Using Elias's insights combined with detailed schematics provided by loyalist sympathizers still within the Citadel, the small strike team, led by Selira and including Elias and NYX, bypassed the heavily fortified main entrances. They moved through darkened service tunnels, ventilation shafts, and long-forgotten passageways beneath the ancient citadel, the silence broken only by their own muffled footsteps and the distant hum of the city above. NYX moved with utter silence, a flowing shadow hugging the walls, its heightened senses alerting them to approaching patrols twice, allowing them to melt into alcoves until the danger passed. Despite their precautions, deep within the Citadel's labyrinthine corridors, a silent alarm was eventually tripped. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut, lights flared to full intensity, and the harsh clang of alert sirens echoed through the stone passageways. Their stealth approach was over. Now, it was a race against time. Corridors became kill zones. Kaelin's Citadel guards, initially caught by surprise, quickly mobilized, converging on the intruder's position. Blaster fire erupted, ricocheting off ornate carvings and armored walls. Selira moved with the lethal grace of her ancestors, her twin energy pistols blazing, issuing sharp commands to her soldiers, directing their fire, creating openings. Elias, armed with his tranquilizer pistol and a scavenged blaster rifle, stuck close to Selira and NYX, laying down covering fire. His medical training kicking in as he administered pain suppressors and quick clot bandages to two wounded loyalist soldiers on the move. NYX was a terrifying whirlwind in the chaos. The Shadowcat darted through the firefights, a blur of black fur and blindingly fast reflexes, hamstringing guards, using its surprising strength to topple barricades, and, most unsettlingly for Kaelin's troops, occasionally unleashing a low-frequency empathic pulse, not strong enough to incapacitate, but enough to sow confusion, fear, and momentary paralysis among their enemies, while simultaneously bolstering the resolve of Selira's team. Elias felt it too, a wave of cold dread followed by a surge of focused calm, realizing the true nature of the Shadowcat's bond extended beyond mere symbolism. They fought their way through waves of guards, finally blasting through the reinforced doors into the cavernous throne room. Kaelin stood waiting, flanked by his heavily armed Praetorian guard, a sneering expression of contemptuous confidence on his handsome, feline face. The ancient throne, symbol of Valerius' power, sat empty behind him. "Selira, my dear cousin," Kaelin drawled, his voice amplified slightly by the room's acoustics. "Persistent, aren't you? And still relying on your pet and..." His gaze flickered dismissively towards Elias. "Exotic auxiliaries. How pathetic. Your reign of lies ends now." "Kaelin," Selira retorted, her voice cold as interstellar ice, raising her pistols. The throne room exploded into a maelstrom of directed energy fire. Selira's guards engaged the Praetorians, while Selira herself advanced directly on Kalen, their personal duel igniting at the center of the chaos. Elias took cover behind a massive, ornately carved pillar, exchanging fire with guards trying to flank Selira's position. He saw Selira and Kalen locked in a furious battle, energy blades crackling and hissing as they clashed, parried, and lunged. Kalen was skilled and ruthless, clearly trying to exploit Selira's protective instincts towards NYX, who darted around the periphery of their duel, looking for an opening. Seeing an opportunity, as Kalen forced Selira onto the defensive with a powerful series of blows, one of the Praetorian guards near Elias shifted his aim, leveling his heavy blaster rifle directly at NYX. There was no time to shout a warning. Elias reacted purely on instinct. He lunged from behind the pillar, shoving NYX hard, sending the Shadowcat tumbling out of the line of fire just as the guard fired. Searing agony exploded in Elias's left shoulder as the heavy blaster bolt slammed into him, spinning him around like a top. He hit the cold stone floor hard, his rifle clattering away, the world dissolving into a haze of pain and fading light. Through the roaring in his ears, he dimly saw NYX, enraged, launch itself at the guard who had shot him, a terrifying black projectile of claws and teeth. He saw Selira, galvanized by his fall, execute a blindingly fast, disarming maneuver. Kalen's energy blade flying from his grasp, followed by a swift strike that sent Kalen sprawling to the floor. Stunned, he saw Selira's guards overpowering the remaining Praetorians, securing the room. Then, Selira was kneeling beside him, her face pale beneath her dark hair, her usual composure shattered by raw fear and concern. Elias, Elias, stay with me. Got him. Safe, Elias gasped, clutching his mangled shoulder, waves of nausea washing over him. The world tilted crazily. NYX limped towards him, ignoring its own minor injuries, nudging his face frantically, emitting a series of high-pitched, worried whines. Selira quickly assessed the wound, her hands surprisingly gentle as she applied pressure. It's bad, Elias, a through and through, cauterized, but massive tissue damage. Her voice was thick with unshed tears. You saved NYX. You saved me. Hold on. He felt a prick in his arm as she administered a powerful painkiller and coagulant from her personal medkit. The edges of his vision darkened. He awoke slowly, adrift in a sea of grogginess, the persistent beeping of medical monitors gradually penetrating the fog. He was lying in a comfortable bed, the air smelling faintly of antiseptics and exotic Cathar herbs. Sunlight, real sunlight, streamed through a high-arched window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. He carefully turned his head. His left shoulder was heavily bandaged, immobilized, but the searing pain had subsided to a dull, manageable ache. Selira was asleep in a chair pulled close to his bedside, her regal bearing softened by exhaustion, her head resting on her hand. NYX was curled on a large cushion at the foot of the bed, its golden eyes open, watching him intently. The Shadowcat let out a soft chuff of acknowledgement as Elias met its gaze. Careful not to wake Selira, Elias slowly took stock. He was clearly within the royal citadel, but the atmosphere felt different, calmer, less oppressive than the brief glimpses he'd had during the infiltration. As if sensing his wakefulness, Selira stirred, her emerald eyes fluttering open. Seeing him awake, relief flooded her face, chasing away the lines of exhaustion. Elias, she whispered, leaning forward, her voice husky with sleep and emotion. "You're awake," the medics said. They weren't sure. "Takes more than one lucky shot to keep a stubborn vet down," Elias managed, his voice rough. "What? What happened?" "It's over," Selira said, a weary but triumphant smile touching her lips. "Kalen is imprisoned, awaiting trial by the High Council, evidence of his treason, including the captured assassin's testimonies and recordings of his orders, was broadcast across the Dominion. His support structure collapsed almost immediately. Planetary governors and fleet commanders who were hesitant have declared loyalty. The Dominion is secure. Order is being restored." She reached out, her cool fingers gently brushing his forehead. "Thanks to you, Elias. Your plan for infiltration worked. Your courage in the throne room. You saved Nyx's life. Possibly mine as well. You turned the tide. We did it together." Elias corrected softly. NYX rose, stretched, and padded silently to the bedside, resting its heavy head on the mattress near Elias's good hand. Elias stroked the creature's dark, soft fur, the familiar texture grounding him. "What happens now?" Elias asked quietly, his gaze holding Selira's. The question hung in the air, encompassing more than just the political future of the Dominion. Selira's smile deepened, reaching her eyes, chasing away the last shadows of the conflict. "Now," she said, her voice regaining some of its customary strength. "We rebuild. We heal the wounds Kalen inflicted. Not just on individuals, but on the trust that binds our society. We forge a stronger, more just future for the Cathar people." She paused, her emerald gaze searching his. "And I hope, Elias Vance, that you will choose to be part of that future. Your insight, your compassion. They are qualities sorely needed here. The Dominion needs advisors like you. NYX needs his physician and friend." Her hand covered his on the bedspread, her touch sending a surprising warmth through him. "And I need you too. Elias, stay with us." Elias looked into her eyes, seeing not just the powerful Baroness, but the woman beneath, strong, intelligent, passionate, and capable of great warmth. He looked at NYX, the magnificent creature whose plight had thrown his life onto this unexpected trajectory, who now regarded him with calm affection. He thought of the gray, lonely existence he had left behind on Station 7, a life devoid of purpose or connection. Here amidst alien stars and political intrigue, he had found danger, yes, but he had also found friendship, loyalty, a cause worth fighting for, and something that felt remarkably like love. The choice was clear. Running a vet clinic on a remote space station suddenly seems rather dull, Elias said, a slow smile spreading across his face, easing the ache in his shoulder. He squeezed her hand gently. "I think my skills might be more appreciated here. Someone has to keep this shadow cat out of trouble." NYX rumbled a deep purr, pressing closer. "I'm staying, Selira, if you'll have me." Tears welled in Selira's eyes, not of sorrow, but of profound relief and happiness. "Always, Elias," she whispered. In the quiet room, bathed in the warm glow of Cathara Prime's sun, surrounded by ancient citadel walls that now promised sanctuary instead of danger. A human veterinarian and an alien baroness, brought together by a creature of shadow and light, looked towards a future they would build together, a future filled with hope, healing, and the promise of a love that bridged the vastness of space. NYX watched them both, its golden eyes seeming to hold the wisdom of ages and the bright certainty of a new dawn.